Good evening, everybody.
Say good evening.
I call tonight's Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 16th, 2018 to order. And I would like to introduce those that are going to lead our flag salute tonight. And that is Miss Adrienne Work and her second grade class from Bethany Elementary. Please rise for the flag salute and the prayer.
Attention.
Salute the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, I ask that you would guide us tonight and give us wisdom, and you would help us to make wise decisions. Father God, I ask you would bless this second grade class and their teacher and every member in that class and help them grow up to be world changers and leaders in our community. And I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Good job. Item 1 tonight is the consent docket A through F. And before I get a motion or discussion, I had asked JR a while back if he could start bringing back the monthly financial reports rather than the quarterly, the way they were changed to a while back. JR, will you want to say something about what you're going to be bringing to council or how that's going to go?
Good evening. Yes, based on a class, in fact, I took last week, they recommended presenting to council a monthly flow report, if you will, something that is concise and easily understood, that gave you just a quick picture of where the city's finances are at month end. And I think that's a great thing to do rather than producing a book that I'm the only one that goes through. But by the same token, as Councilman Shirey pointed out, we get a better trend line if we take a look at it on a quarterly basis. So I want to continue with the quarterly report, but also go back and reformat my monthly report so it's more concise, more to the point, and gives you hopefully better information at your fingertips. So,
Thank you. And before you sit down, you and I had a discussion about the recent article in the newspaper about sales tax, and you kind of looked at some things. Could you clarify for the council and the audience kind of where we stand on the sales tax issue?
having gone back through, and I went back through the first fiscal year a year ago and brought all the numbers forward, the reality is this fiscal year, when you back out the amounts that we should not have received from an unknown vendor from Arkansas, and add back in the amount of money that we're paying back already. We've already been paying back nearly $69,000 of it. When you add that back in and add that back to what was shown as our sales tax revenues for the month, you'll see that we're really only off 0.1% year to date. Okay, so we're flatlining right now, which is a good thing. Okay, so it looks dark, but it's not as dark as some would. It was incomplete news.
Thank you. So item 1 is the consent docket A through F. Do I have a motion or discussion?
I move approval.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment to make about this. Whoever is responsible for, I've voiced my concern about this court report, and they did it, I think, in a very, very well-read, I commend whoever it is. You did a good job. I can understand this, so I just want to say thank you, somebody, whoever that is.
I will pass that on for tomorrow.
Did I get to the point? Okay.
Is that we have a lot of red ink on there. Could we have some explanation of why we have been running in the red for the last year or 6 months or whatever?
Do we have any information on
I could take a shot at it. When you hire a firm to go after your delinquent accounts, they're going to be very successful when they first go out and collect all that money. And then after that's happened, you don't have that level of collections in the future because they've gone back and picked up many years' worth. So that was my guess. That may or may not be accurate.
Through December of last year, we collected 100, no, let's see, we collected $91,000 or $87,000 in fines, and through December of this year, we only collected $64,000 in fines. I think we hired a collection agency well over a year and a half ago. So that would not be valid, that assumption would not be valid on this report.
Well, I think part of that is correct, that when you hire a collection agency like that, they can go out and get that easy to pick fruit.
Well,
They
yes.
get the easy stuff first, and then they start to pick up what they can pick up after that.
But
Of course, your numbers are gonna go down at that point. What would really be nice is if we can be asked these questions during the week, and then we can get the answer for them and have a ready answer. Right now, I don't have the
Okay.
information to answer that question.
Okay, fine.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Please cast your votes. For the record, Mr. Moore and Mr. Knapp are not here tonight, so they did not vote.
Well, sir, Mr. Moore had a knee. It wasn't me.
Turn that off, 'cause that's
It wasn't me.
Yes, he had knee replacement surgery,
I'm not
and
even
he is
on.
recuperating right now, so he is exactly where he's supposed to be.
Don't turn it off.
Item 2 and 3, we're going to push back. They are running a little bit late, and so when they get here, we will come back to those. So let's jump to item 4, an update on Samaritan Emergency Medical Services by Fire Chief S.R. Hunter.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Good
Thanks
evening.
for allowing me to speak tonight. Hopefully, everybody has a handout that I provided with them earlier in the day, either in electronic format or a hard copy. And obviously, you know we can extract any data that we want depending on how we want to use it. I left that to Samaritan Emergency Medical Services to provide the what I felt was the most important data. But again, we can, if this becomes a regular event that we want to provide these reports on a monthly or quarterly basis, we can basically a 2-week. Gender, probably not important to us, but we have a few more men than women that are utilizing the service on a daily basis. Chief complaints, as you would probably ascertain, just based on what is wrong with people on a daily basis, just sick calls is number one. And the top 5 there are someone that's sick, a breathing problem, breathing difficulties, slip, trips, and falls that result in some degree of damage or trauma that would require a first aid call, chest pain, seizures, and 79% of the responses were in these top 5. There were 2 cardiac arrests during that time. One was unfortunately a DOA, person was already deceased prior to our arrival. About that one. Number 2 was a full ALS response. They were alive, being transported and delivered to the hospital. Survival, sometimes we don't know about this destination facilities may not seem important, but this is important to us because the longer it takes to get a patient to the hospital, that keeps our ambulance service out of our district, out of our city longer. With full arrest, for instance, we send firefighters and sometimes 2 with them to assist. It could take 30 minutes, 40 minutes to get back. Historically, we've had to go get myself, the deputy chief, or sometimes a police officer would go to the hospital and pick them up and get them back as expeditiously as possible. Now we're not so concerned about that because Samaritan is coming back to Bethany, going somewhere else when they get to the hospital. So again, that's going to cut the time that we're maybe shorthanded, have to call somebody back in or have to come in. So we're very pleased that the majority of our calls are going to Baptist and Deaconess, but there's about 15 hospitals that they could go to, and there's a graph on the final page that illustrates from the high low. There's a very few patients go to hospitals like Veterans. The only level 1 trauma center we have in the state of Oklahoma is at OU Medical Center. So obviously the degree of injury would determine if that was a point of delivery. Any other questions I can ask? Again, I would reiterate, we are ecstatic about the level of service that we're receiving now. We see nothing but positive outcomes. I think in the future, I just don't see a downside. I think we made a great decision in going with Samaritan. I have talked to probably maybe a dozen people personally. Deputy Chief Jennings has talked to 6 or 8, and we have a few calls at the fire station. I can safely say I think that before the end of the conversation, everyone that we talked to was provided adequate information as to the who, what, when, where, and why of Samaritan being our new ambulance service. In addition, I think good PR was put out on the webpage, Facebook, other social media, even the Tribune provided a lot of information, but not everybody got that from one format or another. But I think after they talked to one of us, I had no one that said, well, I still don't understand, or I think this was a bad move. It just took a little education, and I think, and maybe we're going to have to continue to do a little education for a few months until everyone realizes. unfortunately, most of the people who live in this city don't have to use the ambulance service, so they don't understand. I'll be glad to answer any questions I can.
Chief Hunter, I've got a comment. Number one, I appreciate the info. It's very, to me, it's very helpful, very informative, and I don't know that we ever had that before with our other service provider. But the question I have for you, of the total 114 responses, how many of those were transported?
I think 86%, I think that data was in here.
Was it?
Let me look here, I think it's on page 2, was it not? Yeah, a total of 86% of responses resulted in a transport to the hospital.
There it is. I see it now. Thank you.
And, you know, just, you know, the idea of doing business is it has to be profitable to be successful. So Samaritan needs to transport people completely to the hospital. And many of our customers don't understand if they're having a problem in the field, we're going to be there, both the fire department and Samaritan. And as long as that person is not transported, there's no cost associated with that. And a lot of our customers don't understand that. They can get a lot of medical services in the field that are free. And obviously, any service that's for profit is not going to survive well without those transports. It's unfortunate people have to go to the hospital, but that's a pretty good ratio. 86% is a pretty good ratio.
Chief, I have a question. How many questions did you get in the process about the IMSA service outside the city of Bethany? I think there's like a $45 subscription service. Did you run into any issues related to that?
That was probably the most common question that was asked, and I would extrapolate a little bit on that and say that probably the older customers were concerned about that. Does Medicare, Medicaid pay for that? How's my insurance going to pay? What happens if I'm in Oklahoma City? And I think I kind of briefed my guys to explain, well, you know, you're never covered everywhere. It doesn't make any difference who it is. So if you're in another city, if you go to the lake, if you go to another state, obviously, you know, you're going to have to depend on your insurance. And a lot of those individuals also did not understand the concept of what copay or the out-of-pocket deductible was. And after they were explained, you know, all this, the subsidy that you pay in your water bill covers is any copay or out-of-pocket deductible that would be incurred with that transport. You're still gonna get excellent service no matter where you're at, as long as there's an ambulance service available. They're gonna get you to the hospital of your choice, hopefully, and you know, kind of worry about paying the bill afterwards. Worry about what's going on right then and there. Get the best help you can as quick as you can, and then worry about how to pay for it later. And a lot of the people, you know, they told me that. I didn't tell them that. They said, I guess I should be worrying about getting the best care I can. And I said, I totally agree. We'll worry about how to pay for it later.
I certainly think that this 6.5 minutes is very helpful in what we had, or much better than what we had before.
Yes, sir.
Your people, your response time's about 4.5 minutes.
Yes, in most cases.
So I mean, these people arrive after your people have, but your people do a lot before they get there.
Yes, absolutely. And let me not to make an excuse for Samaritan, but right now they're staging 2 of their units at the Children's Center on the 4th floor. They have to get on an elevator, get down from 4th floor to the 1st floor, get into their vehicle, and then move. That's a 2 or 3 minute deal right there. When they get their facility remodeled where they're going to be staying permanently, we're going to see another, probably at least 2 minutes cut off that response time, easily. It takes time to get 4 stories down and go to the parking garage, get in, and get to rolling.
Where were their permanent locations be?
It's up in the industrial park, up off of Timber and 39th Expressway, back by the Goodyear.
Okay, it's up around across the street from Southwestern Christian University.
Right west of the bus barn, Putnam City bus barn.
Okay, right west. Okay, that sounds good. The compliance is very well. I mean, I think we've hit a home run, except on what you did mention, is if you happen to be in Oklahoma City or something or other, you're going to maybe take a little hit, but that's all the more reason to have some sort of a insurance plan that takes care of that problem. because eventually you're going to have this problem, whether it's health insurance or Medicare.
Absolutely. And I would speculate that almost every policy, regardless of who it is going to pay something on transport.
Oh, yes.
Some of them are very good. A lot of the older customers that we're asking about, well, I'm on Medicare, are they going to pay?
They pay.
There is payment there, so they were worried about, maybe unnecessarily worried about whether they were going to get reimbursed or not.
Yes, but my thoughts here are everybody needs a health care insurance policy, and they need to provide that.
Absolutely.
Because our city health care program provides that.
And again, and this is a little off track, but we talked to Samaritan, and informally, there is a provision there for those individuals within the city that cannot afford that. Samaritan is going to reach out to those people and make sure that no one, and let me say so I'm not misunderstood, everyone is going to get transported regardless of their ability to pay. Everyone is going to get the best possible treatment available. And then everyone is at least going to be looked at in regard to how they can assist them in final payment. Maybe a deep discount or a reduction, or a free ride.
Well, Chief, I appreciate the efforts that you and the other people in our fire department, as well as War Acres, went through and did your due diligence to research this, and I think we went with your recommendation, and I think this right here proves that, you guys knew what you were talking about, and I'm glad to see it working out like this. So thank you for all your work.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
I don't know, I got email reports from the previous provider most of the time. And so I don't know, will I be getting email reports on this type of thing maybe, or it doesn't matter to me if you guys want monthly reports or quarterly reports or whatever. We can do whatever, I guess.
I think it'd probably be a time savings if we just emailed the report that you put together once a month, or, yeah, just for a while till we get it all, we're straightened out and we know everything's working fine.
Just tell me what you want. We can put whatever kind of report together you want, whatever frequency that you desire.
We'll
Thank
let
you.
know.
Item 5 is presentation by Public Works Director David Buchanan regarding the automated trash program.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Would you give me a second? And the audience
I'll take it first, Dave. I want to let everybody know that when I asked Dave to put this together, we had 4 things on the agenda, and it was 45 minutes long. Now we have 12 things on the agenda, and I told him today, let's make that about 10, 15 minutes long. So he's cut it back quite a bit so that we don't have to be here all night. I think this is going to be staff's recommendation on what we need to do. For those of you who don't know, right now we, I don't want to take any of his thunder away, but we need to do something. We have serious problems in our solid waste pickup, and this man is the man that knows what to do. So go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, sir. A brief overview. If you guys remember, about a year ago, we were asked to look at automating solid waste, and we started visiting communities, talking to communities. We even dealt with Republic Services and saw what they were. And real quickly, the overview, what we're going to talk about tonight are the objectives. What were we trying to accomplish with that? Our current operation, what that looks like, equipment options, lessons learned by other communities when they tried to implement totes, their policy and rules, and then our summary and recommendation.
Was that one of our garbage truck things?
Did you notice the pickup? The supervisor had a pickup too. Yeah, that was wonderful, wasn't it? So our objectives, as we understood them, to improve employee safety. We've had needle sticks, we've had back injuries, we've had contusions and things of that nature, just because of the way we pick up our solid waste right now. So we understood that we wanted to modernize and standardize our sanitation equipment. We wanted to standardize our solid waste receptacles. We wanted to eliminate the runaway cans on windy days. Everybody here probably remembers last Thursday. They were all over the place. We need to modernize our rules and policy, and we want to decrease our disposal costs through a policy change. So our current operation has 16 full-time employees, 7 trucks. They range anywhere from 2003 to 2012 models. Repairs in fiscal year 17 ran $41,000. We are on track in fiscal year 18 to spend about $80,000 on repairs on those trucks. We currently have twice a week pickup, and we have a 3 turnover rule. And what that means is basically we can fill up the back of that hopper 3 times at a residence and turn it over. That hopper is 3 cubic yards, so that means 9 cubic yards at a single residence, potentially twice a week. That's 18 cubic yards. I will remind you that on quarterly big trash, we only accept 12 cubic yards. The origin of that rule was prior to 1983, and apparently it was considered an improvement at the time. I can only imagine what it was like before that. We picked up a variety of cans and bags, nothing standardized. On top of that, we are offering the quarterly trash. And by the way, I will mention that we finished our sweep today at 4:45, so the Citizen Collection Center is still open, and everybody can bring the stuff the rest of the week if they've got an active utility account. So, equipment options to meet our objectives: fully automated, semi-automated, and as you can see by the pictures up there, the difference between the two. So fully automated, we assumed it was going to take about 5 full-time employees. We were going to need a minimum of 2 units at $290,000 a unit. Even spending that kind of money, we would be unable to service the commercial as it currently is. It can only service the carts. Narrow streets and parked cars will make it difficult to service all streets in Bethany. Shorter operational life, it has more moving parts than a rear loader system does. And if you remember, fiscal year 18, we had approved $650,000 to buy 2 side loaders for $580,000, and then $70,000 for semi-automatic conversions. Total capital investment is $625,000 for that system. Automated. 16 full-time employees. No need to reassign staff to other divisions. We will begin hiring full-time Bethany staff and phasing out the current temporary help. 6 semi-automatic rear loaders. 2 new trucks at $215,000 per unit. 4 older truck conversions at $15,000 per unit. That's the semi-automatic loading system. All trucks can service commercial. All trucks can pick up carts and bags. No specialized training needed for this. We hire Class B CDL. He has to learn the route. Fully automated system, we're told anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months on an operator because it is a joystick system. Again, we had $650,000 approved in fiscal year 18. The total capital investment for the semi-automatic operation will be $490,000. $430,000 for 2 new semi-automatic rear loaders and $60,000 for the semi-automatic conversions. We could always budget for 2 more in fiscal year 19. For either of these systems to work, we must standardize our waste receptacles. So as we talk to people, we started talking about carts. And we learned some of their lessons before we get to learn them ourselves. Pick one brand cart and stay with it. They each have their unique differences. Different axle size, different wheel size, different hinge on the lids. Pick one size and stay with it. Different sizes require different settings on a fully automated system. The wrong setting could cause a spill or actually damage the cart. And have the rules hot stamped on top of the cart so each resident knows how to place that cart when they pull it out. Document misses and callbacks and charge for the callbacks. You will eliminate a lot of callbacks the first time you have to pay $20, $15 to come back and get it.
Have the initial carts delivered and inventoried by the cart company you choose. They do this for a living. They will come in. We're talking 11,000, almost 12,000 carts. They will come in, they will build them, they will deliver them, they will inventory them, and they will give us a spreadsheet that Deanne can upload into her system. After talking to everybody, the best deal out there apparently is Rare Rig. I understand that Rare Rig that's a strange pronunciation for that, but that is how they pronounce it. They have a 1-for-1, no hassle warning, which means if something goes wrong with that, you don't have to send a picture in. You make a phone call, they bring you a cart, and they take the old one back. And even Republic uses this company for that very same reason. So how would we do this? The initial order quantity would be 11,860 carts at $50.25 a cart. That price includes an additional $4.15 for assembly, delivery, and inventory. We had $596,000 budgeted for carts. Delivery, we would recommend delivering 1 cart per residence and then a second on request. These are much larger receptacles than what is being used now. Our ordinance requires a 40-gallon. These are 95-gallon, 96-gallon. So most communities would deliver 2 carts for free and then add a monthly charge for anything above that. Recommended inventory on hand, 200 carts in case somebody needs one, it gets stolen, it gets lost. 2 pallets of wheels because they will break occasionally, especially when it's 2 degrees outside like it's going to be tomorrow. And axles. We also talked about the rules and policies, and these are some noteworthy rules and policies of other communities. They all had once-a-week pickup, not twice-a-week pickup, because of the larger carts. Weekly collection services were limited to city carts and city bags, except for Oklahoma City, and they're working to get away from bag collection. What is a city bag? A city bag is a bag purchased from the city to occasionally supplement your solid waste stream. If you have leaves, you have something like that. They ranged anywhere in price from $1.50 a piece to you had to buy lots and 10. They all had callback fees and for late set-outs and improperly placed carts. And that was just a deterrent to keep people from calling you after you went past till they get it out at 6 a.m. Or they parked their car in front of it and they didn't understand why you couldn't get it. A fully automated system would require adherence to the following rules. If it doesn't close, it doesn't go. All lids must close for the automated truck to collect your trash. If it tried to pick it up and the lid was open, we'd spill half of it before it went in the trash. Park it. That means wheels against the curb within 1 foot of the street or roadway by 6 a.m. Basically our policy that we have now. Point it, meaning arrow pointed towards the street. Space it 5 feet between cars and carts so the automated system can grab it, and then remove it the same day. Don't leave it sitting out in the street. With that said, a semi-automatic system would be more flexible. Prohibited items are standard: flammable materials, hazardous materials, construction materials, rocks, dirt, and furniture items. It was amazing to me how many of these carts actually burned down because people would actually put their ashes from their fireplace in and they would catch fire.
Dave, can I interrupt you for a second?
You may.
This is why solid waste workers have the highest workers' comp rates in the United States, not just here, but in the United States. Can you imagine grabbing hold of that, thinking it has kitchen waste, and pulling your back out because it's full of rocks? And that is common. Did you not say that's a picture from here in Bethany?
Yeah, matter of fact, I was working on prohibited items and that picture came in. It was
Yeah,
ironic
I mean,
that it showed up the same day I was
that's-
working on that.
That is a major problem that the solid waste people have to deal with right there.
So, in summary, to meet the objectives of an automated system, staff would recommend a semi-automatic operation for these reasons. Lower initial capital investment. It allows our units to service residential and commercial. It allows for collection of carts and bags with the same unit. Semi-automatic rear loaders will allow flexibility as it pertains to parked cars, cart placement, and narrow streets. It will reduce the chances of injury to our staff. Allows for standardization of solid waste receptacles. maintains our staffing level at the current personalized service expectations. It allows for future capital investment of a side loader to service the parts of the city without space constraints. Staff would recommend purchase 2 new Freightliner business class trucks with a 20-yard 20-yard capacity leach packer, convert 4 of our older units to semi-automatic operation, purchase our carts from Railrig. There is a cooperative purchasing agreement through U.S. Communities. We are already a member. Matter of fact, Susan is listed as the contact. And what that means is they have already gone out and competitively solicited bids. And as a member, we're able to take advantage of that nationally leveraged price. We need to establish rules and policy. We need to get away from picking up 20, 30 bags at a residence. My suggestion would be that staff put these rules and policy together. We have a council workshop and we work through it and determine what is best for our community. And with that, I will take questions.
I'd like to say, like you mentioned from the beginning, I know when I was campaigning with Steve Palmer and Mr. Herron, I talked about automating their trash service and updating it like everyone else on planet Earth. And one of the things that was brought to my attention is in fully automating that, the big savings coming from the fact that you're laying off a whole lot of employees.
That's a fact.
Initially. And at that moment, I just said I refuse to do that. You know, we're trying to create the best working environment possible and treat people like family, and I can't bring myself to do that. And I know this has been a year, you said, a year
Absolutely.
ago almost. And so not too long ago, I asked Mr. Harsman if you were ready to bring this, because I think we were ready to hear it. So I appreciate you putting it together and making sure it was ready and bringing it to us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mack.
This isn't obviously on here as a voting item, although I really wish it was. But what is the one drawback you see? Because I agree with you. I think this is exactly what we need to do, because I also heard that the one-armed bandits, there are places in our community that those trucks won't even fit.
They will not,
Yeah,
yes.
like Brownsville, for one, they wouldn't work in that particular area.
Ward 2 has some very tight areas as well.
And so I think this, for me personally, makes sense. But what if we were to order trucks tonight?
Yes.
When would this be implemented or happening?
It would be 90 days before the truck showed up. We could go ahead and initiate the order on the carts and get that going, because the carts could be used as soon as we get some semi-automatic conversions done. I do not know the time frame on the conversion. I would imagine that would probably be a month. They probably have to order the parts, get them in, and convert our trucks. But I think we could be in business by next fiscal year, easy enough, if not sooner. And by that time, if we're working on budget right now, we have 2 more trucks in the budget. That will give us 4 relatively new trucks. We have 2 Freightliners right now that are not costing us much money at all. The Freightliners seem to be the best chassis that we have. We run Peterbilts, and we also run, Peterbilts, and can't remember what the other one is. But my point, international, is that, my point being is that the $80,000 I'm talking about that we are spending this year is not on the Freightliners. Now, Packers, they will take a certain amount of money, because you get some construction material, you don't know you got a 2x4 in there, you will bend a cylinder. I mean, that's just part of it. That's why we would like to standardize our waste receptacles and get away from these bags, because bags, you don't know what's in them, including needles. And we have a needle stick this year, as a matter of fact, and got to report that to the health department. That's a 6-month ordeal for that man and his family. We've got to do something different.
Mr. Buchanan, I
Yes.
have a question on the semi-automated system. What about the leaf bags? Because every fall there's thousands of leaf bags.
I think that would be policy that needs to be set by council. I think we would bring a suggestion to you and see if that would work. I mean, one option would be to sell additional bags. customer service. That bag would, by the purchase price of that bag covers the disposal cost and collection. They could actually fill those bags and bring them up to the Citizen Collection Center. We would not charge them anything because they've already prepaid that with those bags. But I think we need to get away from bags that are not standardized, because you can fill up a 50-gallon bag and you expect our guys to come out there and pick it up, but it's not only leaves. They're putting sticks in there, they're putting rocks in there, whatever it is they're cleaning up their yard with. These bags are 30 to 35-gallon bags, a reasonable size. And I think it would be up to council to decide if that's a system we want to use, what that purchase price would be. And I think, because what we want to avoid is having carts out there and piles of bags. If anybody goes to Oklahoma City and you look at trash today, you look down the street, it is standardized. Everybody has the same receptacle sitting out of the curb. They don't have cardboard boxes. They don't have bags. They don't have all this stuff around. Now, what's the problem with the bag? Probably not so much with leaves. But if there's trash in there, you've got dogs, you've got raccoons, you've got things. Matter of fact, I saw some Facebook chatter just recently, today, about dogs and raccoons getting into it. And now the neighbors picking up that trash out of their yard, they're not happy because they didn't generate the trash. So with these receptacles, to get away from bags, we no longer have that issue. I think it cleans up our city, keeps the litter off the streets, will complement the street sweeping program. And I just think it's a move in the right direction, and I believe it's the goal of this council to improve Bethany's standard of living, and I believe this would do it.
Mr. Buchanan, you made some mention of it, but going pretty fast, I'm not sure I got it.
Sure.
If a particular household wanted 2 of these, is there additional fee for that?
No, we would deliver up to 2 for free.
Okay.
And then beyond that would be your decision, but the other communities we talked to charged after 3, an additional monthly charge, up to 4. Because anything above 4, I can't imagine anybody needing anything above 4 unless you're running a small business.
Mr. Buchanan,
Yes.
I have had so many questions about recycling, and this is just going totally the opposite direction from recycling. To me, semi-automatic and retaining men who put trash onto the disposal truck is just really going backwards, and I appreciate what you've done. But I've always had the same question or the same response when I've asked about recycling in Bethany, and it's like, well, we would lose all these great people that are working on the trucks. But these great people are also being regularly wounded by picking up things. And I'm sure we could find other jobs for them somewhere in Bethany that they're totally qualified for. So it just bothers me that we're going backwards instead of forward.
Well, I would disagree. I
Good.
think we are taking baby steps. Through natural attrition, retirement, people moving to other jobs, us putting a side loader into the system. All that does is slow us down a little bit. We don't jump in with 2 feet, trying to put carts out there, trying to learn how to use side loaders. I see that as being a problem for months, trying to figure out how to use the equipment, trying to figure out how we're going to move cars from one side of the street to the other side of the street so we can pick it up. This way, we kind of take baby steps. We get the carts out there. Everybody knows how to use the carts. We throw in one side loader. We service the part of town that we can. Then we're always going to have a rear loader system unless we go to a front loader system for our commercial, which is going to be a huge capital investment. So we will always need these rear loaders. Recycling, yes, that was part of what I looked at. Now there's several options on recycling. Currently, we offer the 2 20-yard dumpsters at Citizen Collection Center, and they are very popular. We can put other containers around town. We can have Republic Services come in tomorrow and take care of curbside recycling. We could purchase the carts, or we could sign a 5-year contract with them and they'll purchase the carts. There are options for recycling, but I think the way I approached this was one bite at a time. I couldn't do it all at the same time. We got to figure out how we're going to get the carts out there, how we're going to modernize our system, and then recycling is the next logical step.
Well, if we do 1 day a week pickup for garbage, can we have another day a week pickup for recycled materials?
That would be possible.
I mean,
I
that's
think
done in
most of the
other
examples I see, it's the same day, you just have another truck following the other one. That way you don't have different days that people have to
Mr.
remember.
McKinnon, related to recycling, didn't we have an open call to the public related to their participation in the recycling process here in Bethany? Did you get any response, or what response did you get
I
related to that?
got zero response on that. Most of the calls I get are, where can I bring it? And we do have a good following, but it's the same people. One of the things about a recycling program that you need to do is have what they call an RFD tag, a radio frequency tag. And what that does is, as you pick up that cart, it senses that radio frequency and it tracks participation rate. Because participation rate is what recycling is all about. Ideally, you want 100% participation because you want to reduce the waste stream going to landfill. Believe it or not, our landfills in Oklahoma City are going to fill up in 20 years. So recycling makes sense. But again, I'm trying to avoid jumping in with 2 feet into everything at the same time, because I don't think that we could handle it. I think that it would cause more problems than it was worth. I think if we just take a bite at a time and we get the stuff out there, we get the equipment, and yes, we start reducing staffing level as it makes sense, because we do have people that are going to be retiring in the next 5 years. We do not have to replace them, but we don't have to reassign them with the semi-automatic system. They may not want to be reassigned. They may be happy with what they're doing right now.
I don't necessarily see this as going backwards compared to where we are, because our trucks are like 75 years old. So I feel like it's moving forward in some sense of the word, and I agree with Mr. Buchanan personally that there's areas that the one-arm band isn't going to work, and like Mr. Palmer said, we more than once have put out a call for those interested in the recycling, and
No, we asked for who wanted to be on the recycling committee.
we got zero responses.
Well, yeah, I mean, who wants to be on a recycling committee? That's volunteering for something. If it's who wants to recycle, I think you would find a different response.
Maybe we should ask that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, Councilman Harris. It is the right thing to do. That's the only reason the outside contractors are doing it. They're not making any money off of this.
No, you don't
They're
make
doing it
money
because
off
it's the
recycling.
right thing to do. That, and they own the landfills. They want to extend the life of those landfills as long as they can, and the more you recycle, the better off everybody is.
I have a few things. I think for us to make a informed decision, we're going to need 5 and 10-year expenses, really for the sanitation department, to know spreading out that if we go all one way, the other, gradually into it, to not, because we were really just comparing upfront capital expenses. We weren't taking in any expenses with workers' comp, employees, 15 versus 5. So I think for us really having an informed decision, we're going to have to look at the big pictures over 5 years and over 10 years. How much are these programs going to cost us?
Understood.
To know if we should go rear loader combination or how that's going to look.
Well, I would offer this as well. This is a condensed version of a 45-minute presentation.
Sure.
I have information like this. You're welcome to come by the office. I will share it with you. Did I project it out 5 or 10 years? No, sir. I did not.
And I think that will be very critical on deciding which system or a combination of how we're going to go into, not just our initial capital improvement or our capital expense. And I understand a few more things. We want the same cart sizes, uniformity, but a lot of the other cities do this, and I think it's very important that we have a half-size cart for our elderly who can still take the cart to the street themselves, but where the big blues are typically too large for them in weight.
The weight of these carts are 35 pounds.
Yeah.
And depending on what they put in them, yes.
That has been a concern voiced to me, and I think we should definitely look into, and those carts would not be, that would be a cart that you would ask for specifically not handed out
Other
regularly.
communities, that's the way it happens, yes.
I
That is
think we
correct.
definitely need to take a look at that. And then going back to leaves, recycling, couple things we could do on that. I would like to see a city compost pile, potentially, looking at that, maybe where residents can bring it to it, or encourage more people to mulch their leaves and let it rot where it's at, or self-compost at their own homes. Those are a few things, because I think it's the fall time with the leaves would be where you see 20, 30,
Yes.
50 bags out there.
Well, I will share with you, in my former life, I was in the private sector. I've run 2 composting operations. It is a huge capital investment. It takes a lot of effort. What you need to do is you need to collect your dry trash, you need to pile it up. At the end of the year, that needs to be ground and goes into another pile, then you start another pile. After another year, you bring in the tub grinder again, you grind the first pile again, and now it is compost that is ready to be distributed to the public. They would put it in parks and piles, just, come get it. Problem with the composting is that this needs to be constantly turned. It needs to be wet. It is an operation, and I don't know that we're set up for it. I'm not saying that we can't be set up for it. We certainly have some room to work with, but it does take some equipment that we do not own right now in order to make that happen. And it's kind of like recycling. We're not going to make any money off of it. It's just the right thing to do.
Mr. Buchanan, I had some questions about, we've talked about leaves, but like grass clippings, if it can fit in the container, that if you have 2 carts, and let's say you want to put your grass clippings in the cart, would that be an acceptable?
Absolutely, absolutely. If it fits in the cart, it goes.
So if you have 2 carts, and you have enough leaves or whatever you want to get into the cart, that's an available option for the resident.
That is correct. And the thing about these carts versus what we're using now is they're sturdy. You can actually pack a lot into them versus these cheap cans that you're buying at Ace or whatever that either, if they're metal, they'll either distort or they rust the bottoms out or the plastic ones break. The lids don't stay on tight. These are just sturdier carts, and I think that you'd be pleasantly surprised how much you can actually get into them.
So you could put clippings.
Absolutely.
What else? Could you put? You mentioned limbs and things like that.
Limbs, as long as they were cut to the point, just like they are now, cutting lengths short enough to fit into the cart. We don't want the lids open because we don't want the trash blown away. I would highly encourage, that we encourage people to use bags, just in case the lid does come up. Not everybody's going to do that. But as long as the lid shuts, yes, if it fits, it goes. We take them right now. It's the same truck, same system we're using.
Is there a rule right now for the number of trash cans a resident can have?
No, because we have a 3 turnover rule, which is ripe for being taken advantage of by small home-based businesses. I do not know where this came from, but to me, it's counterproductive to have a quarterly big trash where we limit you to 12 cubic yards, but we'll pick up to 18 cubic yards in a week. So that needs to change, and by policy change, that is where we will realize tip fees going down or disposal costs going down, just by
One of the
policy
things that I'd
change.
seen in the time that I spent with our collection crews one day during the campaign, wanting to see what they went through, which those guys are probably the hardest working people in the city, I'm just telling you. But there are landscaping crews that live in Bethany that they haul off the grass clippings and they don't take them to the dump. They throw them on the curb, and there'll be a lot of bags of grass clippings that our city's essentially paying for, so.
Well, and so from what I understand, if you can fit it in the 2, whatever your leaves, grass clippings are, that's appropriate. But if they're outside of that size, then you would buy these paper bags.
Correct.
Okay.
Just to occasionally supplement your waste stream.
And that would be okay if we purchase the bags, then the public, they would pick those up as a part of the service.
As part of the service, or you could drop them off for free. We would not charge you because that purchase price covers the disposal costs and of whatever goes in the bag.
Well, out of my personal experience, my father-in-law was the mayor of Pauls Valley, and they implemented a polycart system. And one of the issues was related to older residents who couldn't get the polycart down to the specific area to be picked
Yes.
up. And they set up some type of a program where that resident could notify the city, and then accommodations could be made for that resident.
That is correct. We actually offer that right now, and part of my larger presentation, there were 2 slides on that. I would not want to get away from that. The only change I would make to that program is right now, we just take their word for it. We don't know if there's an 18-year-old kid in the house that could bring it down. We just say, oh, we'll do that for you. What I would recommend is that we have some kind of application form, maybe even a doctor sign off, saying that, yes, this resident cannot do that. And then, absolutely, we will go up to their doorstep. We will bring it down for them. We call that special pickups. And what I would suggest is going once a week, and we maintain Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Wednesday for maintenance and special pickups. So the special pickups are not going to be but 50, maybe 60 people within the town, and that would just be their trash day, would be on Wednesdays, and we would go service them on that day.
I can tell you, if there's an 18-year-old in the house, like Mr. Hurd said, it's not gonna make it to the curb. I've got a couple of those in my house, and my wife will tell you a lot of times, I'm the 18-year-old not getting it to the curb.
Well, I was going to share a minute ago, if you remember, Mr. Mayor, when you were running around with the sanitation crew, I had to keep you off the back of the truck, because you wanted to ride on the back of the truck. That's right.
You wouldn't let me do that.
Mr. Buchanan, the fact is, this process and this new trash system will be in-house.
That is correct.
And we will not be contracting with a third party to do our trash service, is that right?
That is correct.
So in essence, we can control the cost and the expense based upon what we experience and what we need for the city of Bethany.
That is correct. May I share some figures with you real quick?
Sure.
Last year, revenue from solid waste was $2,183,608. Expenses were $1,384,000, or $84,432, which means that's a pretty good margin. That is a revenue stream that we do not want to lose, that we do not want to turn over to an outside contractor. Again, I'd be happy to talk to you about outside contractor operations. I spent 15 years doing it. I know the ins and outs. Right now, I think this is the best for Bethany. I do not think that we can afford to lose that revenue stream. And with policy change, that revenue stream increases.
You said these rear loaders would take the bigger dumpster, like the commercial type things. Will they take those as well?
No, they will take our current 2-yard dumpsters. What I would like to see us work towards, maybe in the 5 to 10-year plan Councilman Herron was talking about, would be switching to the 8 to 10-yard dumpsters and getting what they call a front loader, which picks it up from the front and dumps it this way. That would make our commercial, a lot of businesses in town much more happier, because we have what I like to call dumpster lots. Swadley's is one of them. I mean, they have multiple dumpsters. It's an eyesore. If they're not full, they'll blow around just like the trash cans will. So, I mean, it's a liability for them. If the dumpster runs into a car, obviously, we're going to feel like we'll give them a tort claim, but whoever's car got run into by the dumpster is going to be looking at Mr. Swadley wanting reimbursement. So, I think it makes perfect sense to move that way, but again, all this costs so much money, so much of a capital investment, we do have to spread it out over 5-10 years in order to get it all done.
When you're giving your estimate of costs, are you including what it costs to dump it out at Trash Mountain or wherever we take it?
Yes, that's tip fees and
you're
everything.
including your workers' comp costs?
Yes, that is our labor, or what we call 0100, but yes, that is labor, insurance, workman's comp, everything.
And the claims from the people who are injured?
Yes, workman's comp. And that's another thing, too, that was in the larger presentation. If we were even going semi-automatic, and Mr. Harsman could probably speak to this better than I could, but even going semi-automatic, I believe our workman's comp rates go down. We add a fully automated system on the other side of town, I believe it goes down even more. Because people do not understand that sanitation workers actually have the highest workman comp cost in the United States.
No, roofers have higher than, don't they?
I don't know. Mr. Buchanan, I have
Not
one.
very many roofers work for cities, so
We don't know, yeah.
I have one additional
Sure.
question. What color can we get these polycards? Are
They come in multiple colors, including pink, if you would like.
What about Bethany purple?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a purple.
I have no further questions.
Yeah.
If I could add, your rapid fire presentation left me a little short. you are going to purchase 2 side load vehicles.
Originally, that was the plan.
Originally, that was the
Until
plan.
we started looking at the logistics, and then it just did not make sense to do the entire city with 2 side loader vehicles. The southern part of the city, it makes sense. You got wider streets, people have longer driveways, they can get the cars out of the road. However, the older parts of town, such as Ward 2, that have the very nice, quaint houses, they've got very narrow streets. You got people parking on both sides, and this thing is a right side pickup only, which means you'd have to go down one side of the street, turn the thing around, come back down the other side,
So
versus going right down the middle of the street
So
and taking
your
that.
suggestion is
Yes,
rear loading semi-automatics.
that is correct. That is my recommendation.
Which we need to appropriate the rear wheels, the rear loading automatics that we have.
We would need to convert 4 of them, yes.
Convert 4 of
At
them.
$15,000 a unit.
And we would still have 1 time a week pickup.
I would advocate for 1 time a week pickup, because we're gonna invest all this money in larger carts
larger
that will hold
containers.
more. And what that does is that actually gets our sanitation workers an opportunity to have a normal schedule. An 8-hour day, go home, 40 hours a week, instead of working 12 hours one day, 4 hours the next. Their schedule, as it is right now, is based on demand. What is the demand? And that's what they're out there doing. Now, on double days, we just went through the holidays. Double day basically means we missed you because we had a holiday, we missed you. So the next time we come by, we expect that you're gonna have double the trash. With 6 units, I can put additional crews out there. I can pull some people from parks, from streets. I can put them on the back of a truck. We can put 6 units out there and take the load off these folks that have been doing it for years. I mean,
Go
that's a
bottom
12, 14
line on
hour.
me. Go bottom line on me.
What do you mean?
No, go bottom line, dollars and cents.
Well, dollars and cents for this year?
No, for the operation, when you start operating.
All I have is capital costs at this point. I was, at the time I was putting this together, I wasn't looking at the operational costs, I was looking at the feasibility of this happening. The operational costs are gonna be basically the same, 16 full staff.
That's
Workman's comp possibly go down. Policy change, disposal costs go down. So I see this getting more efficient as we go. And then, as I said, through natural attrition, we do not have to fill these positions. We can start automating our system a little bit at a time, and as somebody retires, we just don't fill it. And we put that burden on the side loader, say we get a side loader.
You've already started the attrition business by
Yes.
hiring temporaries.
Well, I suggested in this presentation that we start phasing out temporaries and we start hiring Bethany full-time staff.
That's what
Yes. And I'm prepared to do that tomorrow.
We need to put together the numbers that Councilperson Herron is asking for. We
Yes.
need to do that quickly. At least 2 or 3 times a week, Dave brings in the POs for me to sign for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to repair the solid waste trucks that we have now. We've got to do something quickly, and we need to do this. I mean, I'm talking end of the week, next week.
I have
kind of stuff. We gotta
2
get this
units
done.
right here. A Peterbilt and an International, a 2010 model and 2004 model. I spent $12,500 already this year on the Peterbilt, which is the 2010. I've already spent $13,882 on the International, which is a 2004. That's the conversion for our trucks. So we need to start using our money more wisely, I guess is what I'm saying. And we need
But
to move and get
if we're
some new.
converting-
These costs, were they involved in rolling stock, or were they involved in your operation of your pickup?
Rolling stock.
Rolling stock,
The
new
one I
engines,
mentioned.
new transmissions?
Yes,
This sort of thing?
Cylinders, yeah. We've had internal engine problems, and since we have not purchased any other equipment, we are forced to repair it because we can't get down lower than 4 units, or we will not pick up trash. in the
That's
back.
what I'm going-
We've actually had to rent
That is correct.
sanitation trucks, 3 or 4 times?
At least 3 times,
We have
yes.
to call our insurance carrier
Yes.
and tell them to hook us up again because we're going to rent sanitation trucks. And we actually rent sanitation trucks, so we have enough trucks to carry out.
I have heard that we were getting very close to having a catastrophe and pickup. And when I say catastrophe, we could not pick up all that we could be making.
Boy, we would do everything, Councilman
I
Shire, we could
realize
make that
you
not
guys
happen.
give it the old
Yes.
college try,
Yes.
so to speak,
Yes.
but
But what we need to do is we need to start modernizing our equipment, take advantage of a buyback purchase program, which J&R Equipment offers. My suggestion would be every 36 months, they're going to pay 45% for that vehicle. You apply that to a new vehicle, and you're never getting into major engine repairs because it's a 36-month-old truck.
Manager Harsman, is it feasible to have what we need to vote on this by the next city council meeting?
I would like to get this out to you by the end of the week.
All this has been approved in the
Yeah, this is
fiscal year
already in
18.
the budget. We already have this in the budget.
Yeah, so I mean,
What's preventing us
it's
from
really
getting-
basically, I'm suggesting, I'm just looking for the go-ahead to start purchasing trucks and
I
cars.
kind of hope that we could leave this meeting with everybody shaking their head yes, and we could start this process.
Well, I think
tomorrow.
Councilman
Mine is
Herron has-
shaking no, because there's no recycling anywhere.
I'm shaking
And
my
we're
head yes,
saying
but we do need to get Mr.
Nobody wants
Yes, I believe so,
recycling
too.
because nobody signed up for the recycling committee.
well,
And
I can
If
say,
you want to hear that people want recycling, then I think people need to start calling City Hall and saying, we want recycling.
Well,
Because
would
I
love-
hear it from people all the
I
time.
would love to hear from the people. I would also invite them to get online and fill
Yes.
out the form that we have online where they can make requests. I would love, I mean, if we could get that kind of citizen concern going, fantastic. I
And-
can
and-
sell that. But
And that may come in before the end of the week,
Well,
and then we
keep
can
in
look
mind
at
that
different directions.
what we approved this year is $1.2 million. It would be another $1 million to get the recycling going. 600,000 just in carts. Well, they're not going to be used for recycling, so we would need at least another $600,000 in carts, plus a specialized truck to come around and pick them up. So I see this happening a piece at a time, but I don't believe we can afford to do it all at once. Much less.
if I might say something,
Mr. Char, if I could ask this one question. What's
Sure.
it going to take to get this taken care of in a timely manner? What's preventing us from doing it at this point in time?
can't we have a special vote this evening? Because this didn't come up until now?
no,
Mr.
It's not on the
Attorney,
agenda.
please.
I would cautious that because you're asking us to vote on something on what's the cheapest this year. We don't know what's the cheapest. We have to be good stewards of the taxpayers'
agree.
money.
I think-
We have to look at 5 and 10-year plans. We can't vote on something based on
Right, and
what's
we're
the
not,
cheapest
and we're not
this
saying not
year.
do that, but you can get Mr. Heron's information to
I
us
can,
in a timely
but I will say that we are bumping up against that catastrophe that Mr. Shire
I think
was saying.
How many-
John and Dave and I can have a meeting tomorrow, start gathering this information, get that information out to the council by the end of the week. And, I mean, we can absolutely call a special meeting if that's what we need, or if we could just, again, we have this budgeted. If we could get the council to give us a call and say, I vote go for it. I mean, I realize it's not an official vote, but we've already actually voted for it when we voted for the budget. And if we could just get we want everybody's okay to get started. And we could go, and I realize, Dr. Harris, I know what you're saying, and I understand, and I agree. When I lived in Oklahoma City, I recycled every other week. I mean, it was plastics, but that's what I recycled. And I would love to get that started, but I agree with Dave, it's gonna take a little while to get it started. And I think that we have opportunities. War Acres has a recycling program going right now. It's a volunteer runs recycling program on Saturday mornings and Sunday afternoon. Our committee, that we do have an active recycling committee, volunteers there, and they'll accept Bethany people if they don't want to take time off of work. They can do that at the War Acres Recycling Center. Because our volunteers work there and they can take their stuff up.
But we're now getting where, I mean, that's where most cities were 15 years ago. And we're catching up with 15 years ago.
And doing our
This is
best,
pretty
yes.
sad.
Well, I can tell you, 25 years ago, we went through this little song and the same song and dance we're going through now. We tried it. it was an absolute economic disaster. There,
You
I mean,
had recycling.
yes,
door
ma'am,
to-
I've been around here a day or
I
two.
know you have, but you had door,
We had blue tubs.
We had
recycled.
blue tubs.
and you quit doing it.
The city of Bethany couldn't afford it.
It all depends on
It wa-
participation rates.
Yeah.
If the participation rate is up, it makes sense. If it's down, it doesn't make any
If
sense.
the
My
citizens are
recommendation-
growing flowers in their blue bucket and not putting recycling out, then it loses.
If the city of War Acres has an active program, maybe it would be a good recommendation for the city of Bethany to partner with them to allow Bethany to begin the process to start recycling. Because it's obvious to me, we don't have a lot of interest. We have people who do it, but we have people who do not want to be on the committee. So if we can come up with a compromise to allow people to get active with the city of War Acres, then I think that would be a step in the right direction. And I think that would be my recommendation at this point. But my second issue is we need to implement a new trash policy, given the fact that we're wasting money on the repairs of our existing vehicles. That's something that we need to take care of right now. And, we're cutting ourselves short just on the maintenance expenses to the extent that, one, we may not be able to have trash service, and two, we're paying a large amount of money to get to that point. We have a plan, we've allocated the funds, we need to do this now. And I understand Councilman Herron's hesitancy on a 5 to 10 year plan, but we've been doing it, and I think we can get that information in a timely manner
Yes.
to make a good decision within a week or two.
Yes, matter of fact, our first draft of the budget is due tomorrow. We just started the budgeting process. It is a perfect time to be looking at 5 and 10 year plans.
What can you do with what was budgeted in this year?
Exactly what I said, except we would leave $90,000 on the table because we would save $90,000 with the semi-automatic operation. But
So you
that is
would
what
buy
was
how
budgeted.
many trucks with what is in this
I
year's
would buy,
budget?
I would buy 2 trucks with semi-automatic operation. I would convert 4 trucks, semi-automatic operation, which was a total of, I can't remember what the figure was, but it's $90,000 less, so $490,000 versus the $580,000 for the units. And then we would still spend the $596,000 that was budgeted on the totes. So actually, I'm not going to say that we saved $90,000. We have $90,000 more to do something additional to put it towards next year's
So
budget.
in the budget that runs out on June 30th, you have enough money to do everything that you are wanting to do as presented?
As presented and leaving $90,000 on the table, yes. If we went to the side
Can you
loader
bring us
system,
recycling next year?
what I would suggest is there are ways to come into recycling. We could put more containers at the yard. We could put containers here at City Hall. We can put containers at the DeVille.
No, curbside.
Well, but curbside is going to take another $1 million investment.
War Acres does theirs on a little spot, is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes,
You
it's
ca- you
an
ca-
area.
They have a dedicated
Yes.
pickup place. And if you really want to do this recycling, I think you should have enough impetus to take your recycling products to a central location, and then we can get a better idea of tonnage and yardage that we're picking up to see if it's worthwhile to
Yes.
go to an automated.
Well, and I think there's enough interest out there there's enough interest that we had to add another 20-yard container.
And at your facility there, we've looked at that before, you're kind of tight on space.
Yes, but we have space within town to do it. Now, the problem with putting containers out everywhere would be, it's a single waste stream recycling program. You're going to have people put trash in it. You're going to have people put other stuff in it. That's the only problem with not being able to control what goes into your container.
That is not
we
my
would-
definition of recycling.
That is not, and matter of fact, they will charge you tonnage as a tip fee if it is contaminated.
You're absolutely right.
Yes,
Mr.
And-
Buchanan,
yes.
we have successfully turned a 15-minute presentation into an hour.
Should have brought my
And so,
original one
I
up.
really appreciate what you've brought, and I would appreciate if you guys could get together
Absolutely.
extremely timely manner and
Sure.
hopefully get Mr. Herron's information. And if you could email that to council, and then we could reply back or call a special meeting or something to show support and get off High Center here.
Okay.
And start picking up our citizens' trash. And
Sounds good.
Another aspect, I know we need to move on, commercial dumpsters that we cannot service. We have a number of commercial dumpsters around that we are not getting revenue a part of, as
That's
I was
correct.
pointed out, and I have found them. And this plan still does not do anything to correct that. So within this plan, we need to look at if a business requirements is something we don't provide, where we can collect a royalty fee of some sort or some type of a fee, so we are not losing money on that trash pickup.
Well, we worked with Mr. Davis in April a few months ago, and we delivered the businesses that we identified that were using Waste Connections or somebody else. Our ordinance requires them to use us. However, does that make sense? Should we force somebody to have 10 or 12 of our 2-yard dumpsters when they can have 1 or 2 of the larger ones? No, we probably shouldn't, because it's an eyesore. It's a liability for them. But what we could do is draft a letter and say, hey, the ordinance says this, and until such time we are able to put 8 to 10-yard dumpsters out here, we can pick them up like this, we will allow you to use this other service, but at such time that we become able to do that, you will have to switch back to us. Now, the royalty, that's the first I've ever heard of that. I mean, that would be a discussion that you guys
You're not
would
gonna do this for free, are you?
do what
That's
for
the
free?
royalty you're talking about, right?
No, to where
Right.
they can use the other services. One of our large grocery store has
Okay.
a 40-yard with a compactor on it.
That's correct.
A 40-yard with a compactor, if you're using 2-yard dumpsters, you're gonna have a gazillion of
Yeah,
them.
Southern Plaza, the same deal.
Southern
They-
Plaza.
yeah,
Southern
yeah.
Plaza has a very nice, tidy, I think it's like a 4-yard with a compactor,
Yes,
or
yes.
6-yard with a compactor.
And you're
I
right,
would
that would
agree
take
with
some
the
Because
commercial
otherwise we
situation,
needed 14
because I know there are some that
units,
that are using outside
Yeah.
let's just-
services, and so I would much rather eventually get our own overhead and take care of it ourselves, because it is a revenue
That's
stream,
correct.
rather than taking a small royalty or something. But if there is some way of having that conversation until we can get to that
Yeah,
point, then I'm all
again,
for
we're
it.
trying to meet certain objectives, and
We
that is
can
clean up Bethany. So
charge them
I
on the
believe,
water
I
bill.
support that until such time we can pick them up.
We can charge them
We
on
found
the
that
water
letter,
bill.
so we'll be
Yeah.
working
Excellent.
on that.
Thank you,
Mr. Buchanan.
Thank you.
Yes. Good evening.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry.
Item 6, consideration and possible approval of lease amendment with Sprint Spectrum Realty Company for tower location at 2601 North Wilburn Avenue. Do I have a motion or discussion or a presentation?
It's a relatively simple item. Sprint has antennas on the water tower behind Williamsburg Apartments. Some of their equipment has become outdated, and they're replacing that equipment, and they're adding a small amount of additional equipment. They initially offered 0 in additional compensation for that. They currently pay $1,250 a month for that lease. I was able to negotiate, after several back and forths, additional $500 a month, which is another $6,000 a year for basically a few extra radios on the tower. So, and they will still, once you approve this, they'll still have to meet the city engineer's requirements on installation and methods and protection of the tower. So, to me, it's a lease you already have. It's just, they're modernizing it. You're recognizing another $6,000 a year.
How many antennas are there on that tower now? Is
I
that the
don't
only
have that
one?
right in front of me. Mr. Caton may be able to
Yeah,
remember.
they currently have 3 antenna assemblies, and they're gonna add 3 more. They'll
So
have a
they're
total
all
of 6.
Sprint?
I'm sorry,
It's all Sprint?
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Please cast your votes. 7 is consideration and possible action of adopting an amended ordinance number 1952, granting Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company a franchise. Do I have a motion for reading by title only?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Please cast your votes.
An ordinance granting to the Oklahoma Gas and Electric Company and Oklahoma Corporation, its successors and assigns the right to produce, transmit, and distribute electricity within the city limits and to sell electricity therein for all purposes for which it may be used to the city of Bethany, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, its inhabitants, and the public generally, and the right to construct, maintain, and operate a system of poles, wires, conduits, and other facilities and equipment in, upon, across, under, and over the streets, alleys, public grounds, or ways in the city for such purposes for a period of 25 years from the approval and acceptance of this ordinance, providing compensation to the city and ordering an election. Just a brief summary. This ordinance does everything I just read. It covers a period of 25 years. It does provide for compensation to the city in the nature of free electricity equal to 1/2 of 1% of the kilowatt hours sold, and then it allows 3% of the gross revenues received by OG&E on an annual basis. I believe Mr. Robinson could give you a round number of how much that is if you want to know it. And I think OG&E sent you out a memo that I think summarized what that is. Ordinance has 11 enacting sections, and following approval of this, the next item is a resolution calling an election, which will be held the first Tuesday in April. And if the people approve it, this will go into effect at that point. That's all I have.
Is Mr. Lewis available to answer questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Section 8 says that the company shall furnish to the city without charge each fiscal year during the term, yada, yada, for operation of signal lights in buildings occupied and operated by the city for municipal service purposes. Every month, we pay some pretty big OG&E bills for city buildings that are totally used for municipal purposes. Is that going to change?
The amount of free service that you will receive each year comes to the monetary amount of about $72,000. That's the 0.05% of our total gross. So that'll stay the same unless the total gross of Bethany's electricity increases, then that amount could increase as well.
The email that Mr. Lewis put out showed how much that was last year, and then how much the city was billed in addition to that. That obviously doesn't cover all the lights and buildings in Bethany,
Right.
but
Right.
I
Does
think
not cover.
my recollection is it was $70-something thousand, wasn't it? Then?
That is correct. And it does not cover all utility bills at the city. It doesn't cover water pump stations, and street lights.
Police station, fire station.
If
I don't
you
think-
can use that as a free service if you'd like.
But
The city
use it
has
all
an
up.
option.
We use it all up anyway.
Yes, you use it up every
Now,
year.
we're not using any.
They have the city has the option to determine which building that they want to use the free service for.
What is the shortest term that you have with any city in Oklahoma?
25 years for 260 communities.
What's the longest term?
25 years is the longest allowed by state.
So much
law.
for negotiating, right?
I will say that, if you look at Section 2 of the ordinance B, this only allows us to use the alleyways and the roadways to provide your electric service. It in no way prohibits you from bringing in another utility company. This does not make us the only utility company. You could work out another franchise agreement with them, so it does not make us the only. If you wanted to look at that option, hopefully not, further down the road, you have that option to do so.
Mr. Lewis, I have a question. I know that I should know, but I don't know, so maybe you can help me out. This election proposed for April the 3rd, who pays the expenses of that?
We do.
Okay, thank you.
They also pay for the publication of the ordinances and all the
OG&E does.
all of the inspectors and judges at the polls and all those things. That's their expense.
What happens if the majority vote no?
Then we will have to look at possibly bringing forward another franchise that they would like. It's never happened before, so I am kind of stumped as what we would do. But I would suppose that we would possibly come up with different terms of the franchise election and try it again. Of course, with your blessing.
You don't turn off the lights, so.
We don't turn off the lights, and we've continued, even though we are out of compliance right now with our franchise. It expired last April. We have continued to, in good faith, make our franchise payments and provide the free service that we do. Thank you, guys.
I've got a question or two. We buy $14 million worth of electricity from you each year. Is that correct?
The city of Bethany, all the citizens and
All the
businesses.
citizens within
Yes, sir.
the limits of the city of Bethany.
That is correct.
I have a there has been no due diligence on our part to talk this over. And I've put together some things that I thought was pertinent. I believe that OG&E pays $1.33 per quarter dividends.
No, not a quarter. I believe that's a year for a dividend. We pay I believe 34 cents a quarter for the dividends.
Okay. And your price per earnings is $17.05. Is that correct? Per share.
I do not know.
Okay. The other thing that is really a great contributor by OG&E to the city of Bethany is what you pay in the ad valorem tax for your
Yes, sir.
fixed car, your capital that you spend in Bethany. And the net value of that is $1,190,000 and change. And you pay $130,533 a year. Is that correct?
That is correct, according to my figures.
Well,
And we are the largest.
I mean, you sent, that is something that we got. Okay.
We are the largest ad valorem taxpayer in the state.
In the state. That's true. Well, if you paid $130,000 ad valorem tax to Bethany, I've got one little old rent house down here that's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths that was built 70 years ago, and I pay $1,000 in ad valorem tax for it. How do you equate that?
It's based on the wires and equipment, transformers, substations that we have within a city, and how that is computed. That is determined by the state treasurer's department. I have in association with the education department, and how it's figured up. I could not give you that answer at this time.
Well, it seems a little funny that about 130 houses that are in Bethany, a very small size, would be the equivalent what your assessment is.
Well, and that, again, based on transformers, they're not
I
houses.
realize this.
They're wires, they're poles, they're transformers. If you would take what our ad valorem is for the Mustang power plant, it goes into the millions of dollars.
But
So based on the structure-
That doesn't come to my little town.
I'm afraid that's, ad valorem is determined by the state, and we pay it where they tell us to pay it.
That's right, you pay it to our municipality, it goes to the county for county operations, it goes to the school districts,
Yes.
it goes to those entities. When you look down, it goes
The
to.
library.
It goes to our new library,
Yes.
which we're building. I see you pay nearly $300,000 a year in franchise tax to the city of Bethany.
$450,000.
Well, that is if the agreement, if you're required to pay us 2% of this 14 million.
3%. 3%.
Well, but-
3%.
But that is we have to have an agreement with you to get the other percent. We only
The
get 2%.
agreement that we come to tonight we would agree on
Raise it to
3%.
3%. If we didn't
Yes.
agree with you tonight,
You'd have 2%.
we'd have 2%. The thing that seriously bothers me is if we decided to buy this electric system from you, what would we pay for its wiring, transformers, poles, substations, etc.?
How much would the cost be?
How much? Yes, how much would the cost be?
I do not know.
I've heard of $40 million is what you want to charge us, but yet.
We have not quoted any price to the city of Bethany.
Okay.
I can say that a town, we probably have quoted a price to a town before, once we did the audit and all that, and $30 or $40 million at a town of this size probably is probably not out of line, but we have not done an audit for Bethany. I don't know what the system would be if we sold it to you, if it was for sale.
Yes, but the net value carried by the county assessor is only $1,190,000. There's a big difference in there. And
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve 7B.
I second it.
So I have a motion and a second of approval. Item 7B, approval of sections 1 through 11 of ordinance number 1952. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
we just left $4 million ban on it.
Item 8, consideration and possible action of adopting an amended resolution number 1496, calling and holding an election in the city of Bethany on April
I've
3rd,
done this 3 times. I've
2018.
done it twice.
Do I have a motion of approval?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 9 is Let's Get Connected. It was tabled from 11/21/2017 meeting. I would like to motion to remove this from the agenda until an actual sidewalk plan is clearly planned out, so it can quit appearing on our agendas.
I would second that motion.
Do we need to cast a vote for that, to make that happen?
I would say to strike that item from the agenda, and in the past, you've tabled it, and just to strike that from the agenda, it will not appear until you direct it appear.
Do
The way it is right now, though, it's not the actual sidewalk plan. The only thing in the agenda this time, I thought, was the ordinance of if you do decide to pour a sidewalk.
Right,
Yeah,
and
my
we wanted to,
understanding, this is for people who want to put a sidewalk in front of their house and don't want to have to go through the onerous rules that we have. This isn't a sidewalk plan.
and
This
this
is
is,
allowing
but this
people
is
to do
exactly,
that.
this ordinance is exactly what we kept tabling because
It's
we
only-
don't have any kind of plan.
It's only half of it. What we got tonight was only half of what we tabled. Unless I'm mistaken.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance doesn't adequately provide a plan and guidance for residents. And there are certain things that need to be supplemented and included in the ordinance. And part of that are specific provisions related to a general plan for sidewalks in the city of Bethany. This is a classic example of cart before the horse, and this ordinance needs to be tabled, and I think it should be brought back up once we have a cohesive, comprehensive plan for sidewalks. I think a good example of this is this survey that was prepared and we received from residents in Ward 2. They're not concerned about the ordinance. They don't want variations in the sidewalk plan. They just want everything to the areas where there are gaps in the sidewalk. They want those gaps to be at least looked at and improved. So that's not what we have in this ordinance. I think there are provisions in here that need to be specifically allowed for overlays that are not in the ordinance. I think at one point they were requested and they were not included. So based upon that information, I think we should table this or indefinitely until we get more information and a better plan.
I disagree, and we're both representing Ward 2. But for people who do want to put in sidewalks, Mr. Caton, could you explain the process in about one sentence or less?
Could you also share with us how many residents you've had call City Hall that are wanting to pour a sidewalk in front of their house that this ordinance would work out for?
We very rarely get calls from people who want to put a sidewalk in. It's not, I would say, 5 times in the 20 years I've been here, someone will call asking what they need to do to put in a sidewalk. With our current ordinance, it would fall under the auspices of a public improvement, the same as a water line or a sewer line or a street. They would have to produce a set of plans. It would have to be presented to the city council for approval, and then they would have to hire a contractor or construct it according to city standards, and would be inspected and bonded and finally accepted by the city as a public improvement. So it is fairly onerous for a sidewalk.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we did have a very successful meeting this past week related to the process of overlays. It was not just discussed in Ward 2, but it was also discussed as a plan for implementation in other parts of the city. And the survey came back, and we had good feedback from the residents, and we were able to determine what they wanted and what they needed. So, with all due respect, Council Member Dr. Harris, we don't know what the other parts of the city want related to sidewalks. So, to say that this ordinance should be applied in different areas, we don't know because the residents haven't told us. So we know what they want in Ward 2, but we don't know what they want in Ward 4, Ward 3, Ward 1. And so until we get to that point, I think we need to make an honest assessment of where we need to go with sidewalks. And then at that point, we can make recommendations to change the ordinances. So I think that's a consideration that should be taken, and that's why we don't need to act on this ordinance at this point in time.
I'm sorry, I thought this just had to pertain with the permit. I didn't realize this was a plan. I was, after reading this, I thought this only had to do with the permit and a public improvement. I didn't realize this was a plan or lack of plan.
And I
so.
don't think it is a plan. It's giving people an option to do it. Planning and zoning unanimously approved it, and then it's just been left dangling, and it just sets the sidewalk permit fee at $5. We budget money every year for sidewalks. Are we not going to build sidewalks until we have a total plan for the city? We still need sidewalks to the schools. We need sidewalks on Rockwell Council. We see people every day walking and riding in their scooters and bicycles and stuff on the street, and we need sidewalks.
Do I have a motion to remove this from the agenda until we have a better plan?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, please cast your votes. Going back, item 2 on the agenda is a presentation of qualifications and proposal by Center for Economic Development Law for providing legal services for tax increment financing districts. We have a presentation.
Just a brief verbal, and how do you do? My name's Leslie Batchelor. This is my partner, Jeff Sabin. We're with the Center for Economic Development Law. We've previously met with your city attorney and your Economic Development Trust, and we understood that it might be of interest to you for us to be here this evening to tell you a little bit about our work in the event that you're interested in engaging us for the economic development efforts that you have underway in the city of Bethany. I'd be glad to take this any particular direction, but we are a small law firm based in Oklahoma City that focuses on the representation of cities, towns, public trusts, and occasional nonprofits on a variety of economic development efforts, and those fall broadly into 2 big categories. There are the large recruitment efforts where it's bringing, say, a Dell computer or a GE to the state, but we also do smaller projects that are historic Main Street revitalizations, did a Campus Corner project in Norman, working with Stillwater, Owasso. What's near and dear to our heart is really community building. It takes both, but we have a particular passion for the sort of redevelopment work that existing aging communities do, where we roll up our sleeves working with city staff to provide you with an economic development strategy, often using tax increment financing to help give you the tools you need to provide either public incentives, public infrastructure, or other public investment to help economic development happen. We've developed some pretty strong opinions about what we do. I work with my father, who's been in this line of legal work for over 50 years, and we believe pretty strongly that it's not just quick incentives that make a difference for long-term economic development and well-being of communities. We think it's the hard work of building places that people care about, where they want to live and where they have quality jobs. With that, we don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. We don't have glossy pre-made project plans with pretty pictures. We have a lot of questions for you about what you would like to accomplish. We've had some preliminary conversations, but with the recent staff change, what I would like to do, if you are interested, is we'd sort of like to start at square one and identify your objectives. We think there are a couple of key ones that have been identified. We want to make sure that's still on track. TIF districts, when they're created in a city, are the creation of the city council. They are owned by the city. The revenues they generate are controlled by the city. The city may delegate some of the functions of implementing a TIF district to a public trust, but in the beginning and in the end is controlled by city council. So I'm here tonight to introduce myself to you, to answer any questions you have, and hopefully begin the course of a conversation that leads to representation of you in your economic development efforts.
No, I was not present when you guys presented or spoke with the BETA group, our BETA group. But I know Mr. Davis and I had lunch with your father, and I also know that the Bethany Economic Development Authority unanimously wanted to bring this forward to council. You guys, from what I understand, have been deeply involved in all of the revitalization efforts through TIFs in Oklahoma City that a lot of us travel from Bethany to Oklahoma City to enjoy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I will say, over the years, as we've gotten some things started and they've become such big projects, a lot of those functions happen within the city of Oklahoma City, and we operate primarily as counsel to the Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority and the Oklahoma City Redevelopment Authority on the pieces of TIF that are effectively delegated by the city of Oklahoma City to those trusts to carry out. So that's primarily the health center, TIF district, and then that project plan there, and then specific advice on projects like GE and Dell and some urban revitalization. So when we're not working with Oklahoma City, I represent the city of Tulsa as their development council. We've just finished establishing a downtown TIF for Tulsa, which will have 8 tax increment financing districts, working on some larger projects there. Last year we set up a TIF project plan in Owasso, where one of the new features that I think that we are going to recommend strongly in communities going forward is that it's not just a matter of passing a TIF project plan and establishing the TIF district, but we recommend strongly that you also have a set of policies for how you're going to implement that TIF district. I know you've had some TIF work going on here, so I don't want to tell you things you already know, but the TIF project plan itself basically gives you the elements of geography, budget, and some objectives, but sort of that fine-grained detail work comes later in the implementation. To give you the tools you need to really make that workable and not just another plan on the shelf. Our style of working is to help you establish either eligibility criteria, principles, objectives, or a formula so that it's clear how that TIF money is going to be spent when it's generated. We want to help you identify viable projects and make those happen. It doesn't do much good to produce paper for you if we can't help you produce real projects, whether those are small-scale things that help you get public infrastructure put in place, like sidewalks and street lamps and things, or if those are bigger projects like landing a major retailer within the city limits of Bethany.
I know that we have passed the vision for the 23rd Street revitalization that people are passionate about, and this would be a part of that type of thing, efforts there that need to be picked and chosen what should be TIF districts. I know you represent the municipality side of things. Also this week have our 3rd meeting with 3 other cities about joint efforts to do a revitalization plan for Route 66. And I know that we've had specific discussions with others about coming to Bethany and doing some things, as well as other developers that want to do things here. And I know that we've just passed our first TIF district in Bethany history, and I know that took that developer quite a bit of time to accomplish. And Mr. Herron chaired the TIF committee that unanimously voted that through, so we could have a chance to vote on it. But I was told that these kind of efforts, you guys go in and look at the areas and work with us and do the things what you just said, that it greatly increases the speed of a TIF district coming to pass. Let's take 23rd Street, for instance. A lot of areas that something needs to be done there. And so if those things were pre-dubbed TIFs and you guys were helping do a lot of this legwork and a developer shows up, how much further down the road are they to accomplishing their dream or their goal and our goal in revitalizing an area than, say, a developer that just passed his TIF down on Waterside?
Months or even a year or more ahead. TIFs are not a magic wand and a silver bullet. They just give you one more tool to do the hard work you already do. Our firm gets a lot of phone calls that go something like this. Hello, this is City Manager X or Mayor Y from Town Z. We need a TIF district. And I have to say, it takes a lot of self-control to not say, well, what it sounds like you actually need is a plan. Because most communities, and frankly are fairly desperate for development to occur, and they don't have the time or the resources or sometimes even the know-how to do the planning work that you are in the great good fortune to have done. You have a plan, you have a vision for 23rd Street, so you're light years ahead already. The TIF is really just a financing tool. People who've heard me speak before know that I often make the analogy to an empty bucket. The TIF gives you a bucket to catch new revenues with, but if you don't generate those new revenues, you've still just got an empty bucket. So it still takes recruiting that developer. It takes helping them through the permitting process. It takes making sure that's a development you actually want. I mean, just because you've got a proposed way to help them doesn't mean at all that you have to help everyone who comes along. If something doesn't fit with your vision, then you have a way to make a decision about whether to provide public support to it. Lots of communities just know they want something. And then they have this TIF district, but then they're sort of stuck. Well, like, what do we do? Someone shows up. How much money, or what should we do for them? How do we make this happen? But if you have a goal, if you have a vision, then you have the framework for making a decision about your public investments. And all the TIF does, really, is give you an area, a budget, and some goals for doing that. It's not the end game in and of itself.
Would you have an example which would allow the residents of Bethany to understand what services you can provide for a municipality of 20,000 and kind of lay that out in real terms that we can apply and understand and take with us?
Sure. The scope can be large or small, so I'll give an expansive example, but it doesn't mean that it can't be more focused. What we do is go in and work with existing city staff. We're sort of like, you have your family medicine doctor that you go to. You have your city attorney and city staff that you work with all the time. Occasionally you need a specialist who comes in because we do the same things over and over. We look at undeveloped, underdeveloped, and blighted areas of your city. We look for development opportunities. We see if those areas are eligible for a TIF district. Now, it's best when you have a focused geography, as you do, as sort of the backbone or the anchor of your project. But we can look more broadly at, are there things we're trying to do that, while focused on this location, we want to think about in the city as a whole? So it's not terribly large. If we need, say, a general retail recruitment strategy, there's not necessarily a reason why that would be limited to 23rd Street. You might want to have principles that apply citywide. Maybe there's, bonus if you come to this area that we're really trying hard to get some traction in. But We help you identify the geography and develop a strategy for bringing development there. That takes looking at like why it's not happening now. Is it that there's not adequate utilities infrastructure? Sometimes it's the hard truth that the traffic counts, rooftops, and household incomes just aren't where they need to be for a big box to go back where there once was one. And we'll tell you the honest truth on that. There's no point in you offering boatloads of incentives to something that just isn't going to happen. Because if the fundamentals aren't there, you can't, make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. You can tip the balance, you can let people know that you're business friendly, and you can help smooth it along the way, but it doesn't magically happen, and a TIF does not create, buckets of money to offer up. So we'll help you develop that strategy. If TIF is the way to go, we'll draft the project plan with you. We will work with the other affected taxing jurisdictions. We like to do projects that are truly a win-win for everyone involved. We have a self-interest in making sure that TIF stays around as a tool, both for the sake of our business and because it's one of the few tools that cities and towns have to generate local development. We don't want to see an abuse of it, so we're pretty careful in the projects we do. We know how to say no to things. But we also know how to help attract development that makes sense for location. And we want to help you build the kind of community you want Bethany to be. We can't tell you that. We can tell you what it takes to have a legal project plan, but only you can help us identify what those objectives for that project plan are. We create that plan, we get you through the approval process with your planning commission, the review committee first, and then coming back to council. The paperwork and the documents themselves, we know how to do that. It's straightforward. What really matters is working on the strategy and the content and giving you at the end something that you can implement. Because this plan at the end is just your starting point. That will be, okay, here's now how we can help the businesses on 23rd Street. Here's how we can recruit someone to that vacant parcel that we think is a good location for something big. But that's when the work actually begins, to reach out, to negotiate a contract with them. But you'll have that framework in place. You'll be able to point to the resources that'll be available, and that's what we help you do.
Her response to your question is kind of a segue into what the contract they provided really does provide for, and it's broken into kind of options that you can select from. It concentrates on two areas. First, the 39th Street corridor, and then it also has emphasis on the 23rd Street corridor. You can do them separately at the same time. It's laid out so that you kind of pick and choose which services and the timing in which you want them. And the contract went to all the council members. They've seen it, but I think that's a pretty general summary of what it provides. So, and I think exactly what she told you. She's going to do more than just take a piece of property and you have a person that might be interested in that and put that together. I mean, this is a broader scope than that. I believe their law firm's going to be looking at, on 39th Street, for example, all of probably the undeveloped property along there. So that's kind of how it works. The numbers are broken down in the contract into phases, which was sort of a negotiation point, and I'm satisfied that that's reasonable, and I'd recommend approval of it.
Have you done a mixed-use project at all?
We have. It is really the preferred kind of development in so many locations, but still takes some work to get done. One of our projects was in Broken Arrow, where they were trying to retain flight safety as an employer and help them expand. But in the course of that project that was focused on sort of a jobs generator, once we saw like where it was going, it was not very far from their historic, to the extent they had a downtown, that area. So what we did was go ahead and extend the TIF district to there and encourage some mixed-use development in the Rose district that they've got there, where you would have like retail on the first floor and office on the second. I think that's something we really need to see more of in the metro area. I think just as a development pattern challenge, all of our communities have these major thoroughfares that often started as residential. They have really high traffic counts. They're not necessarily a very appealing place to live. Not that some of them aren't. But in figuring out like what new patterns of development there might be, encouraging mixed use, vertical mixed use, where you've got an active use on the ground floor, but perhaps residential or office above, I think will give us some options for development that we're not currently seeing as much of as would make sense. It makes it more walkable, it makes a denser development, and when you've only got, I forget how many square miles Bethany is, at every square foot that you can generate more intense, higher quality development, the better off the tax base will be for the city itself and its GO bonds and its TIF, if it establishes one, the better the school district will be. We've got to think both in terms of sort of the unit of investment and not just the total investment of one large project. And mixed use really gives you a way to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the legal services agreement with the Center of Economic Development Law.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Item 10 is proposed executive session for purposes of discussing of appointment of Steve Harsman as interim city manager in consideration of additional compensation for the additional duties and revised agreement with April Collins for revised duties as authorized by 25 Oklahoma Statute Section 307B1 of the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act, which provide authorization for an executive session for purposes of discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, and resignation of any individual, salaried, public officer, or employee. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Please cast your votes. And we will try to make this quick. Okay. No vote was taken in executive session, but item 11 is consideration and possible approval of agreement with Steve Harsman pertaining to his appointment as interim city manager and establishing additional compensation for the extra duties. There is a blank in that agreement, and the council agreed to increase his pay by 10% as he is the interim.
He did an amazing job the last time, and I move and strongly approve the agreement at 10%.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Shiry's light's still on.
Item 12 is consideration and possible approval of amending agreement with April Collins for legal services and establishing fees for such services. This will take her from the deputy city attorney title to a retained city attorney.
For those services.
I move approval.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 13 is called to the public. Please state your name, your address, your blood.
Good evening. Regis Wanyika, President of Southwestern Christian University. Let me begin by thanking you all for the work and your sensitivity towards our institution. And I just wanted to, the purpose of my being here today was one, to apologize for the lack of representation on January the 2nd, when our institution was on the agenda. We just simply did not know that we were on the agenda that day. Otherwise, we would have prepped and shown up. Not that it would have changed the outcome, but at least I think it would have eased what I discerned as the irritation that night that there was no representation from us. And secondly, just to again reiterate our commitment to be responsible corporate citizens, and certainly not rogue citizens who will disregard any wishes or any directives from the city. We've had a very good relationship with the city, certainly since I've been in charge. I've been at the helm of Southwestern Christian University, and we hope to continue to be. That said, I think I'm happy to report that on the 3 items that you have stipulated, we are making progress. Again, today the cold weather has not helped, but the engineers have already staked out where the sidewalks will be, and OG&E and all the utility companies have already been out there. They will start pouring out concrete for the sidewalks on Friday, and also to fix I think there was a need for additional concrete work on the retention pond and an installation of a grading that should be in. And I know, and I have been promised by our contractors that everything should and will be done by February the 3rd at the latest. So I just wanted to report and show up in person and own up, and I just hope that next time there won't be any. I just don't know what happened with the communication during that week. I guess maybe because there was a break. It was after Christmas break, and by the time the agenda had been posted, I think the agenda was posted on the 28th, and then there was a break again. And when we came back, we just did not know. So thank you all for the work you do, and I look forward to a fruitful and prosperous relationship with the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry that you were not notified of the meeting.
No, but it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14 is the city attorney's report.
I just had one very brief item. If you recall, I've been working for about 10 months on easements for the central sewer project. And if you recall, that's a new sewer line that's between Central and College Avenue. It starts at 46th Street and comes south. And there are some people in there that have had a lot of problems in the past. And that line was apparently sort of, for lack of a better term, bootlegged in long before any of our time. And the proposal was to put a completely new sewer line through there, and the preliminary plans have been prepared, and I've been working to acquire the easements. There's a young lady in the area that's been a lot of help too, and we've now acquired all but 3. 2 of those are in the works. One of them the mayor is going to visit with. One of them Ms. Barton is still working with. But there's one that I can't get any contact from. He doesn't live here. He lives in Mustang. The property he owns is on Central, and it's a rental property. And I'm hoping maybe by the next time I come back, we'll have those other 2 in place. And if so, there's only going to be one lacking. So this council is going to have to make a decision on what to do about that one. To give you an idea of the number, I believe there are a total of 14. And all those people donated those easements as well. We didn't pay anything for any of them. That's all I have.
Thank you. Item 15 is the interim city manager's report.
I just want to thank the council for their support, and I appreciate it, and we will do the best we can. I have two things real quick. I know we're really long here. Number one, we've had a shakeup, and the employees of the city of Bethany are taking it well. We're doing well. We've all talked, and we are moving on. All is well. Number two, I sent out an email to everyone about a rather large chunk of money that we had received for the ice storm of Thanksgiving 2015. And there's one employee that I really want to thank, Marla Nix from Public Works, who was the initial strong arm in this. And then strong arm again and again and again, because that's how many times she had to do it, and then they would lose it, and we would do it, and they would lose it. And just about, it seemed like about the time we would all forget everything involved in it, they would ask for the same information again, or a variation of that information, and she would always come up with it again and put it back together and take care of it, and we got the money. So I really want to thank her very much. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 16 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. And tonight, let's start with Mr. McCutcheon.
Mr. Mayor, I just would like to publicly say, Steve, thank you for stepping up to the job. It's a large position, I know, and I just want you to know that council appreciates you doing this, and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you
during this transition.
Mr. Herring?
Thank you. I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Todd?
Mr. Mayor, I did look underneath here, and there's a plug right underneath of me, an electrical plug, and I think next time I'm going to bring my own heaters.
Dr. Harris?
I have nothing tonight.
Mr. Palmer?
Steve Harsman, thank you. And we look forward to good work, and thank you. I'll commit to the project on Central and work with the city attorney to complete that in a timely manner. If we can get those three individuals online, we're good to go. So, and it's also Bethany homecoming. I don't know what happened at the basketball game tonight, but hopefully the Broncos won. And I will say that my alma mater last night, Oklahoma Baptist University, did not do very well against the SNU Crimson Storm. But I will say that I am excited to know that one of the stars of the SNU basketball team is R.J. Palmer, who is an excellent player and has a great last name. That's all I have, Mr.
No
Mayor.
relation, none. Yeah, okay. All I had this evening is I had appointed a traffic committee. I'd been asked to do that recently, and those members are the members that are not serving on the library committee, which is Phil Shirey, Steve Palmer, John Heron, and Paul Todd. And I just ask those council members to pick a time to get together and get to looking at what we need to do, because there are some things we need to do. Some of the things that the one-ways have not addressed that I know of are the no parking on some streets that the study did address, but we haven't done, and make sure signs are in the right place, and just do what you guys can do to improve us in that area. Item 17 is new business. Does anybody have any new business? Whew, thank you. No new business. I declare us adjourned until February 6, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is a consent docket, A and B. Do I have a motion or discussion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of lease amendment with Sprint Spectrum Realty Company for tower located at 2601 North Wilburn Avenue. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 6, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1, consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 6, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1, consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 6, 2018. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you and good night.